Hey guys, SpiralMaster's here again. Today we're going to be looking at going from Tier 1, or well, a Tier 2 character to a Tier 3 character. Um, in this particular one, I've got one of my friends in, John F. Doe. He's going to be helping me show you how to get to Tier 2, or technically Tier 3. So to load, it's actually a little bit difficult, a little bit more complex than some of the other RPGs. I'll go ahead and do it for you really quick because I haven't done that yet. We're going to go -load, hit enter. You should see a little yellow dot appear up here right above your typing command. Once you've done that, then you can insert your code here and it will load your character. So this time I've got this little Torn Chieftain guy. At the moment, I don't really have good gear, but what I've got is John F. Doe is going to be running through this 125 zone, and there are 2 priests in it. Each priest actually has the ability to drop a Book of Intelligence, and I believe around level 1, around level 30, you can start picking that stuff up. It could be sooner than that, but that's how, if you're going to get power leveled by somebody, they would have to have a character that's low enough to go into this 125 zone. The reason being is because any of these other zones over here, none of them have an item drop inside of it. So it would be very difficult for him to get you money because you can make your backpack jump into the zone. You just have to know where on the map it is. So right now we've got John F. Doe running through this level 125 zone, so I can farm those Books of Intelligence. Now they're only worth 3,000. John F. Doe just showed me where they're at. So it's at this bottom middle section of the map. If you notice, there's a Book of Intelligence. So I can actually teleport my chicken into this zone, pick up this Book of Intelligence, and I instantly get a $3,000 reward. So that makes farming for your Medallion of Courage, your Razor Spine, and your Seertil Shield relatively easy, because those scrolls only cost 3,000 gold to upgrade. Now, once you get into the Medallion of Courage +5 to 8, of course, you're going to have to find 3 before you can actually do 1 upgrade. But still, that 3,000 bonus gold every time that one of those guys drops is very lucrative in farming for money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay inside this zone, the lower rank zone, the 98s and the 95s, and I'm going to try and get all of my skills. So I have to hit level 94 before I even get all my skills back. So personally, I'm going to go to this level 95 zone. Reason being is because there's 3 seals in here, and those seals, anytime that you kill one, just like in the zone that John F. Doe is running through down here, it has a chance of dropping. It's not quite $3,000 worth, but it is $2,000 worth. So even though it's a lower zone, I can still get a substantial money increase by running through this zone. And I can probably do it by myself at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while he's running through there, and I'll be able to pick up some extra cash from those seals. As well as the level 98 zone is not worth much more XP than this zone is, and it's actually a lot more difficult. So it may be easier and faster for me to run through this zone with a chance of picking up one of these seal drops than it would be for me to go inside the level 98 zone and try and run through that and get more XP from it. Now, what you can do if excuse me, if you're leveling up with a character that's closer to your level, say he's around 115, you would actually be able to go into these 101, 105, 109 zones, and he could kill everything for you, and essentially you would be able to farm that way instead of trying to do this by yourself. So if you have a character that's playing with you that's a little closer to your level, it will be a little easier to farm as such. But since I don't have that luxury at the moment, I'm going to let him farm me a little bit of money in that other zone, and I'm going to run through this zone until I can get close to the same zone that he's in. Right now, we just checked. He can actually get into the 115 zone, and at this point, if you are 15 levels behind or above a zone, you can actually get into it. So at around level 100, it would be a good idea for me to go ahead and try and get into those zones with him, because at that point I will be gaining a substantially larger amount of money, and just for running through the zone. If you remember in the previous video that I have, running through the zones is a main part of farming. You actually get a lot more money than running through a big zone than you would running through a smaller zone a lot of times. Some zones are actually different. You gain in the later levels when you hit tier 3, you can either gain money or wood for running through it, and sometimes they drop wood blocks instead of giving you a bunch more wood. So it may be beneficial for you if you're running with a group to go through a zone that actually gives you a little more wood than it does the wood drop, in which case you would be able to farm that zone instead of farm the boss in a higher level that doesn't drop, or that doesn't give you as much wood for going through the zone, but it gives you a lot more wood for actually killing the boss, because the boss will effectively give you a wood drop whenever, instead of a wood drop or a wood for going through the zone. So it really, whenever you get up higher, it really depends on what your class is able to do and who you're running with. If you're running with some guy that's 200 levels above you, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get help from him, just because of the fact that he can't go into lower level zones, whereas you would be stuck in the lower level zones and not able to benefit from the fact that he can kill everything in 2 or 3 level zones behind where he's at, because it's going to take you 2 or 3 days to farm enough to get into the same zone that he's in by yourself. Some classes are better suited to solo than others. So if you're running with a group, it may be better for you to change your class to suit the group's needs, compared to the class that you would like to play. And again, it's all dependent on your ability to what you want to get out of the game. If you're trying to run with a group, if you enjoy running with a group, then it might be beneficial for you to pick a specific class that's more suited towards a group. Whereas me personally, I like to play with a very small group of friends, or just by myself. Sometimes I'll jump online and just see what other classes have built, see how they build their items, just to get a feel for that. But generally I'll be just solo farming, or with a small group of friends, maybe 2 or 3 people playing these types of RPGs, just because it is a grind. And if once you get into the tier 3 area, over here where the huge bosses are, and you start having to kill them 30, 50, and 100 times before you can move on, if they drop a specific item and it suits your needs, just to farm that by yourself, than it would be to run with a high level group. And if you have 2 classes that require the same item, then it becomes a fight for who gets the items, and you may not get it, and it may not drop for the rest of the game. So then you're stuck in the same boat that you were at the beginning of the game, and you can't, you're stuck having to farm by yourself anyway. So again, it really depends on how nice the people are you're playing with, and the classes that they have, and really just your play style. If you like being a solo character, and even if you like being a solo character in a group setting, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's going to take you a little bit longer than it would somebody who wants to play a group character in a group setting, and you're going to benefit from that if you're playing with the right group. And I'm sure there's multiple groups online that you can jump into and join their groups, and just fit yourself in wherever you're needed, and they'll help you out along the way. All I'm trying to do is get a feel for the game, see if you want to actually spend the time to grind through it, and just see if you want to see if you want to do that. It's really up to you. The whole point is to entertain yourself. So I'm here. I've got my +8 Medallion of Courage now, just from the extra money that John F. Doe's been farming for me down in this zone over here, and running through the zone I'm running through. I made it to level 94, so I have all of my skills. But before I can get into the 115 zone, I'm going to have to be at least a level 100. So I'm going to keep running through this level 95 zone. I'll probably go ahead and upgrade my Razor Spine the rest of the way, just so I can get that crit damage up. I have the defense I need with the Medallion of Courage. The only thing I really need to do to complete my build is start building that gate staff that I explained in the previous one with the Druid. The only reason why I built differently this time is because I've had John F. Doe's help to farm. So I went ahead and built a more damagey build to where I didn't need to survive through the waves. I can just keep running through, and I'll still gain money and XP that way, instead of building a safer way and making the grind a little bit different. It wouldn't be easier. It would definitely be different, though. Also, one other thing about this zone is the only thing that you really have to worry about is this Infernal that drops. It's really just a skeleton archer. But he does quite a bit of damage lower if you don't have any defense. My defense is up pretty high because I've got a +8 Medallion of Courage. But as far as trying to kill this boss, it's a lot easier than the level 98 zone. And I will jump in there after this one so I can show you why. There are the units inside that zone aren't necessarily what's difficult. What's difficult is the boss, because he's got like 50 to 60% stun when he attacks, and he also has a bloodlust, so his attack speed gets up super high. So you can clear the zone, and you can, I mean, it's not bad as far as money is concerned to clear the zone. The smaller units are worth 25. You have a dragon that's worth 80, and then he spawns 2 other dragons that are worth 100 apiece. Each of the dragon turtles are worth 90. So it's not a bad thing to run through this, because you will gain more XP than you would in the other zone where I was running just a second ago. The issue is you probably won't get XP for killing the boss if you're doing this solo, because he's going to keep you stun locked the whole time you're in here, whenever you're fighting him. Now, there is a gold coin in here that's worth 300 bucks, so you could say that it's worth running through here because of the XP and money, but in my opinion, it's probably not, unless you can kill this guy really fast. And it's just really difficult to kill him really fast if you don't have any form of CC, crowd control, just because of the fact that he keeps you stunned the whole time you're trying to fight him. So he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. It just takes too much time to try and kill this guy. And even if, you would have to be super attentive to even get close to killing him. Now, I've got a little bit extra money than I should here, so you could say that it might be worth it in this setting, but still, in my opinion, I can run through that other zone. I could probably have gone through it once and been about halfway through it again, had a chance for those 3 seals to drop another $2,000. And this zone, if you looked at my money, it was only worth about 5,000, and I only gained maybe half a level, or a level and a little bit more for going through that. So, in my opinion, it's way worth more to go through this level 95 zone, killing these 3 seals with the chance to get an extra $2,000 from one of them. And even if it only happens once every 4 run-throughs or so, that means you gain an extra $500 every time you run through, which is the same thing as running through the other zone and getting that gold coin every time you run through it. So it balances itself out on money and speed. It's just it's a little bit different of a run. So if you like killing that guy, if you like having the battle of trying to kill that guy, then that would be the way that you would want to go. Personally, I would rather run through this zone and kill this boss 5 times instead of running through the other zone and killing that boss 2.5 to 3 times in the same amount of time. I just think it's a little more rewarding to continuously run through this zone and see the upgrades happening, see what's happening, than it is to sit there and grind on that one boss that you can only kill once every 5 minutes or so even. If you could do it, if you can do the next level zone at about 3/4 speed that you can do the zone before it, then I would say it's definitely time to move up. Until that point, it's to me it's way more beneficial to run through the other zone and do it twice as fast to 3 times as fast than it is to try and do the harder zone twice as slow. Now, whenever you get to really high in the T3 to your upgrade zone, that may change, because I'll just give you a little teaser, if you will. This zone right here, when you go through the wolf zone, which is the final boss, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm way away from there, but this red wolf, once you kill him and walk through the zone at the end, it gives you 60,000 lumber, whereas the boss right before it is only 12. So if you can run through the other boss 5 times before you could kill the red boss once, it's still worth going to the red boss, just because of he can also drop items that are worth 10 to 20,000, and so then if you killed him once and he dropped that, you're getting twice as much to 3 times as much money as if you killed the other boss 6 times and you still didn't get any drops over there. So when it gets to be future, way down in the future, that is, I believe you have to be level 215 to even get inside the wolf area, and that in itself is a huge step in the game. You start doing 5 to 10 million damage at that point, and the dynamics of the game begin to change. So all I'm trying to get at in these tutorials is to show you how to get to the harder part of the game, the more fun part of the game, in my opinion. Now, beginning of the games are always, they should be fun, but they should also be more of the harder grind. Once you get into the future part of the game, I believe it should be more of, oh, I want to kill this guy. I need to kill this guy repetitively, not I have to kill this guy repetitively. In the beginning of the game, I'm okay with the I have to kill this guy right now, but in the future of the game, I like the I need to kill this guy, not the I have to. So right now, I have to stay in this zone because it's more beneficial to me than it would be to run up in the higher zones and lose out on money that I could be gaining in a smaller zone. So that's all I'm doing right now, is I'm going through these small zones, trying to make my way up into the future, if you will. So John F. Doe has been graciously farming this other lane here, so I've been able to pick up these books of intelligence and get that super big $3,000 bonus. So I've got 35,000 right now, and I'm going to go ahead and buy that gate staff and upgrade it to level 4 instantly, because the gate staff itself here, you can purchase it just like you could any of the medallions, the axes, any of the starting items. You can actually buy outright. I've done a little bit of calculating, and it's actually more beneficial to you to begin with if you do the recipes. Some of them actually cost less if you do the recipe. But for purposes right now, since I have so much extra money, I don't really care about it's too small of a number, in my opinion, for it to matter to me right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and buy them outright. And again, if you don't have somebody to farm for you, like I've got my friend here doing for me, then you may want to consider doing all of the recipes by hand instead of buying the items outright, just because it does cost a little bit more. But it looks like I just hit level 100, so I'm going to ask John F. Doe whenever he gets back. I think he went out for a smoke break, but I'm gonna ask him to go ahead and start running through that 115 zone with me. But I will say that if you don't have that option, if you're doing this all solo, test your waters out. I hit level 100, so I'm going to use all of my money really quick, and then I'm going to try this 105 zone. I'm going to show you a little secret about the 101 zone that you may want to consider before trying to beat it. Now, if you notice their health difference, it's only 40,000. Their damage difference is only 7,000. The issue is every boss, if you notice in the smaller levels, they start gaining abilities. It started out with the Golem, who has two stun effects. And then if you jump up to, let's see, the Infernal, he had several damaging skills. The Lich here had several Nova spells. So they start to get to where every boss has a unique set of skills. The 101 boss specifically has a mana burn. So if you are a character, like every character other than probably the bear, which is this guy, you actually use mana quite often. If you're the werewolf, you may also have that exception. But you use mana quite often, as most of the characters. So he's going to take away all of your mana, and if you use mana as a primary form of damage, then it's going to really put a damper on how fast you can kill him. I'm just going to upgrade, oops, bought an extra one, just buying my Razor Spine to level 4. So it's, in my opinion, it's a little too tedious to try and face him. And if you notice the damage and hit points difference between these first two bosses, it's really not much different. So I would say go ahead and skip the 101 zone and see what you can do on this 105 zone. The units really aren't that difficult, and they're worth a lot of money. If you notice the differences between what zone I was running and the zone I'm running now, even before I get to the boss, I'm going to be gaining probably about the same amount of money that I would be gaining running through the other boss. Now, granted, I could have been running the 98 zone, but if you remember, there's a reason why I wasn't running through that zone. It's because it's a harder zone to run through, which I think is the same concept between the 105 and the 101 zone. It's just too much more difficult to run through that first zone than it is beneficial. So, like I was saying, I'm going to have about the same amount of money running through this zone as I did running through that ice zone, even without killing that boss. And we'll see how much money that this boss gives us whenever I get a chance to try and kill him. But my point is you're gaining twice as much XP now in this zone than you were in the ice girl zone. And you're gaining about the same amount of money. Now it looks like I'll probably die against this guy specifically, because he does have that time stun, and it is a massive amount of magic damage. So I don't have any magic resist right now. None of my items give me any magic resist. So he's just gonna demolish me as far as that's concerned, is because every time he uses that, I'm pretty good on his attack damage. I'm probably only taking about 50 to 60, maybe 100 damage off of his 4,000 right now, but his magic damage is just too great for me to kill him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep running through this zone until I hit it's going to be 20,000 gold. Now, if you also notice, I've got everything at level 4 and above. So that's kind of what you're shooting for at this point before you start trying to go into this zone. Is you want to have all of your items at least +4, and you should have a Medallion of Courage close to or around the +8 scale. So the Medallion of Courage +5 through 8 it costs $8,000. So just for a farming reference, that means if you wanted to have another one, you could actually, before you even continued on, you could have 3 Medallions of Courage at +8 before you even attempted this guy, and you would, guaranteed, if you had that, you would be able to kill him every time you ran through the zone. But my point is this is also a good farming zone, because this is the first time you'll be gaining a substantially large amount of money for completing a zone. If you noticed in the Ice Girl zone, it's only worth maybe about $2,000 to $3,000 for running through the end zone there, and whereas to here it's going to be worth somewhere around 8,000 to 9,000, plus everything in the zone is worth it looks like about 8,000. So you could get 2 Medallion of Courage upgrades running through this zone once. But what we're going to focus on now is the Gate Staff upgrades. So the Gate Staff upgrade is most likely the first time you're going to want to use wood to upgrade something. Why? Because it only costs 15. It's the cheapest out of anything else to upgrade. And it doesn't give you a small amount bonus. It's actually a very large bonus, especially on defense. So if you see here, your defense bonus on your +8 Medallion of Courage is only 450. So that's a relatively low number. If you look here, each enhancement gives you an additional 210. So the Gate Staff starts at 210. Its first upgrade is going to double itself, and it instantly becomes even with your Medallion of Courage as far as defense is concerned. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to go for that Gate Staff upgrade. And again, this is the first time you're actually going to convert your gold into wood to use it in any recipe upgrade as you've seen since the beginning. So I've got $20,000 right now. There's 2 different ways you can convert. You can either buy it at one of these shops, all located all around. I mean, you can make your backpack go anywhere, but you can also use your chicken. Your chicken and your backpack are the same thing, as far as I'm concerned. We've got John F. Doe doing some maze running for us over there. But you actually can convert everything you've got here into gold, wood, and back. And it's the exact same conversion rate. So the lumber here is if you see the 10x and then 1 and 10. So all that means is that for 10,000 gold, you get 10 lumber. Now, there is no other conversion rate, so if you need 5 lumber, sorry to say it, you're going to have to buy the 10 lumber scroll, or the item. So I'm going to get 2 of those. That puts me at 20 lumber. I can now afford my first Gate Staff upgrade, and I've done it. So that's really good. If you notice, my armor just jumped. It's huge now. It's up to 1,100. So I'm going to go back in this 105 zone, and I'm just going to keep doing that Gate Staff upgrade. As soon as I can start killing this boss, the better. And it's not worth, to me, it's no longer worth going back into the 98 or the 95 zone, because since I'm doing this solo, like I said, the 98 zone is very difficult to run through. Whereas the 95 zone is almost equally as beneficial to run through and a lot easier to do. So if I was needing to farm for that Medallion of Courage and I couldn't do everything in this zone other than the boss, that's what I would still be doing. I would be running through that zone, trying to collect enough for that Medallion of Courage +8, and eventually that Gate Staff +8. So all I'm going to do now is keep running through this zone and try to get to that Gate Staff level 8. Right now it's +5. Since I'm not using any outside help other than the $3,000 occasionally from John F. Doe over there, it will still take me a little bit. It'll still be a grind, and I'll still get the effect of the game even though I'm doing all this solo. Really the only thing that solo does is changes how much money you get per run through. If you were doing this with a group, you would essentially lose out on 50 to 80% of the gold value that you would get if you're running through this by yourself. Why? Because everybody now has a chance to kill those units, and if you only get one kill on a run through, well, hate to say it, but you're screwed on money from that point, and you don't get, 50, like I was saying, 50 to 80% of that gold value, and that really messes you up on your calculations. You're now going to have to run through something 18 and 19 times, whereas if you were doing it by yourself, you only have to do it maybe 8 to 12 times. So that run through gave me $10,000, and I already bought a 10 and a 10 last time and only used 15. So that means I can buy an additional 10 and immediately get another gate staff. So that gate staff now, I mean, my armor's just shooting up through the roof. I'm starting to deal a lot of damage. And if you notice, that last time I ran through this zone, I was able to do it by myself. I was able to go all the way through the zone. Another big factor on when you're trying to run through these zones is what is your character capable of. Later on in the game, you may have to kill some units individually, some of the harder units, pull them away from the groups, kill them, and then fight the groups, because the groups are going to be easier to kill, but they all do more damage together. Specifically on this boss, if you have a ranged champion that has over 500 range, if you look on the boss, he only has 500 range, he will not move whenever you attack him. He will only cast spells. So if you have one of these, I think the Dryad is the only champion that has over 500 range, if I am correct here. Yeah, she's the only character that has 500 range, so if you're running through her, you actually have an extra ability to kill this boss that no one else does. You can actually hit this boss without him even trying to hit you. So at the point that you're using the Dryad and you can get here early, you could kill this boss probably before any other character. So it makes it, as far as the Dryad's concerned, it makes this zone a lot easier, and you will want to get to it as fast as you possibly can. Which, in this situation, you would have to be, first you have to be tier 2 to go into any of these zones, which you have to be tier 2 to pass level 90, so that means you at least have to be level 90. And at the point that you are 15 levels below here, which, ding ding ding, is 90, you should be able to go in there. However, I did notice on one of our run-throughs that you have to be at least level 91 to go through any of these zones. So it starts at level 91, and then you could actually, as the Dryad, you could go inside here at level 91 if you had the proper items for it and wanted to try that early on. I don't really recommend it for a lot of the other heroes, just because you will actually have to fight the boss, which will be very difficult as far as a level 90 is concerned, or a level 91 in this situation. So I'm still just running through. I've made it to level 105. Still going through this zone. If you notice my money, it's about 8 to 9, almost 10,000 every run through. So that's about how much money you'd be getting if you were doing this by yourself. So you just want to keep running through this and upgrading that gate staff until you can move on to your next zone. Typically, I will stay inside that zone until I can skip, or no, I'm sorry. I usually skip the 113 zone and go to the 115. So I'm going to stay in this zone until I can pop into the 109 zone and kill what's inside there. I would say you probably won't be able to do much in there until you have a gate staff level 8. So until that point happens, you probably shouldn't try the 109 zone. But the 109 zone, I think, is worth 10,000 just for walking through the end of the zone. So just for a money reference, when you can do that, it's definitely worth getting to it. So there we go. I've got my gate staff level 7, still running through this 105 zone, and I guess one reason for upping in zone is if you just are trying to gain levels as fast as you can, and you know that at some point in the future somebody's going to be able to power level you or give you money, like John F. Doe and myself were doing just a little while ago. He's actually been taking a break for a little bit, so I've been just grinding through this zone to show you exactly what they're worth and how I would do it. But if you have somebody like that in the future, then it may be beneficial to you to, as soon as you hit the level of the zone, to try and jump up another level, even if you can't kill the boss in it, because the units inside will be worth that much more XP to you, and it will then be an XP grind for you instead of a money grind like it is what I'm doing. So I'm kind of showing you how I would do it if I was definitely playing completely solo, didn't have any outside help. This is how I would be grinding. I would be going through a zone that I can go through relatively quickly, and is worth a lot to me as far as money and XP value. So this zone looks like I'm not even gaining half a level for going through it, but I'm still gaining $10,000. So it's worth it from a money standpoint, but not really worth it for an XP standpoint. So let's go ahead and jump up to our dragon zone and see where we rate. I'm a level 106, so I can go to the 109 zone because I'm within the 15 level limit. But if I try and go past the 15 level limit, then I will no longer be able to get into that zone. So if you notice inside here, every unit on the ground is worth 220, at least $200. So if I were to say right now, it is definitely worth running through this zone, just because if you notice, I was at $0 when I entered this zone. It looks like just for running through and killing all the little guys in it, it gained me about a level and $4,500. So even if I don't kill this boss, even if all I got out of it was the XP and the money, it's probably worth staying in here as opposed to the other zone. Just because of the fact that it's given me that much more XP. It's given me not too much money, but it is keeping me up as far as my gold value is concerned. So I will most likely keep running through this zone, even if, and it looks like it's going to be a really close fight between me and the dragon boss, but again, even if I am not able to kill the dragon boss, then I would still want to run through this zone. Killing the dragon boss is just icing on the cake, if you will, because it's another $10,000. So I'll keep going through here, doing all this nonsense. If you have an AoE hero that has a lot of AoE skills, you want to bunch everything up and then try and kill it. If you don't, it's definitely better to segregate and single some units out, especially this one. If you can kill all the other units before you start fighting that one, then it's definitely worth doing it that way, because you won't lose as much hit points, and then by the time you're ready to fight the boss, you won't be as low, you'll be able to fight him longer, so on and so forth. So I'll be able to do that zone, it looks like, repetitively, because I just got my last gate staff upgrade, and I was able to do it with a +7 gate staff. So having the +8 gate staff only makes this go faster. Now, I do have a +8 gate staff, so what do I do now? Well, you have several options. If you like what the gate staff is doing for you, you are probably going to need several +4 gate staffs, depending on what you're going to decide to do in the future. But generally, the builds are going to require you to have more than one, so you could just automatically build that. Or you can start thinking about the future as far as these recipes are concerned here. So this Tranquility says it needs a +8 Medallion of Courage, a +4 Gate Staff, and a +4 Codgle's Axe. So that's what I would suggest as your first item when you start getting real money for killing units. And real money, I mean you're getting 10,000 every time you run through a zone. So we could have started this in the previous zone, but I like to have that +8 gate staff because I know I'm going to need one in the future. You won't need it now because most of the builds only require a +4 gate staff, but having that +8 gate staff is, I mean, you can just look at it and see the bonuses of it. It far exceeds any of the other items you could have built at the beginning. So now that I'm starting to get money for going through these, I'm going to start thinking about these later on in the game as far as the tier 2 is concerned. So I'm thinking about this Shield of Courage and this Tranquility. It looks like for the Shield of Courage, I need a Tranquility anyway. So if I want to do the Shield of Courage, no matter what, I'm going to have to do this Tranquility. So let's just buy the stuff I need for the Tranquility, which is a +4 Gate Staff and a +4 Caudigal's Axe. So I'm going to go over here. Caudigal's Axe is right here. Gate Staff is here. Now I can upgrade those a couple times. The Caudigal's Axe is inside here. It's this bottom left one. I'm going to go ahead and just up it to level 4 because I've got enough money. Done. Going to go over here to the Gate Staff. I also have enough money for it to be level 4, so I'm just going to go all the way through to level 4. And I'm going to keep those items in my inventory because why not? They're just extra stats, bonus stats than what I had earlier. And I'm going to keep running through this dragon zone. So now, if we look over here, and again, I'm just letting my guys solo these guys. I don't really even have to pay attention right now. I can run through this zone. I probably don't even need to use any of my skills at this point. I do have 2 passives on this character, so I'm relatively strong. Every now and again, I could press the R button because it's a bloodlust, and it's a time-based thing, and I can do other things while I'm paying attention to him. So it looks like this recipe requires 24 wood. So what do I need to do? I need to start getting some wood. So I've got 18,000 right now. I'm going to buy my first 10. Looks like I need at least 30,000 to just go through that and get the recipe for it. So and everybody's got their own way of doing things. If you like to have a huge bonus at one time instead of a gradual increase, you can do it whatever way you want to. I prefer to buy the items and then buy the recipe just because I get to see the effect happening while I'm getting it. So I've got enough as of now to buy this Tranquility recipe. I'm going to buy it, going to bring it over to my guy and my chicken, and I'm going to finish killing this guy, and I'm going to see how big of an increase this is going to be. And it may not even be an increase as such. It may just be now you have more item space. So if I wanted to get 4 more +8 gate staffs, I have that option now. I have the ability to do that. And I'm not saying that that's not a bad idea, especially if you're doing all this by yourself. You're going to need to manage your money and your items as best that you can. It looks like I held an item in my inventory, so that's why I'm not doing this guy too fast. That critical strike on any character other than the Dryad is absolutely critical. It just makes you do, if you read it, it says 40% chance on hit to deal an extra 0.6 times your damage. So if you calculate that out per hit, that means you would have to do every 2.5 hits, you're dealing 0.6 more damage. So if you divide that out again, you're dealing, what, 20% more damage per hit? So that's like having an item that gives you 20% more damage. So not having that critical strike on reduces your damage by 20%. You can just think about it that way. Having it on, of course, consequently, will give you an extra 20% damage. So if you wonder why your build isn't working correctly, if you don't have critical strike, that's probably the issue. Most of the heroes in here require that critical strike. They don't have an innate critical strike. They require that in their build, and like I said, the only character I can see it being an issue with is the Dryad, because she has a multi-shot, and every time she criticals, the multi-shot does not happen. So that makes it very, very difficult to um, get to use that critical strike to her advantage. It's like now if you get the critical strike, you're now taking one of her abilities and just throwing it away because you can't really use it at that point, especially if your critical strike chance is over 40%, which it does get there whenever you start getting these really big items, the Shield of Victory or the creature here. Look, it says 70%. So that means 7 out of every 10 shots that she shoots, she can't use her multiple strike. So, I mean, if you like dealing less damage, then yeah, go for it. Just use that critical strike all you want. But if you like utilizing your characters to their full advantage, then specifically on that hero, I would suggest otherwise. So that's pretty much how I'm gonna do the rest of this. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on a sped up version while I grind for the rest of this stuff and eventually get to around 140, 150. Actually, I'll probably pause it around 130 and I'll continue on my tutorial there. But everything else I've pretty much covered. You're just gonna want to start going for these higher level items, the Tranquility, the Shield of Courage, to get you to the 130. And the reason why I say 130 is at 130 it's actually a turning point as far as the game is concerned, because you start needing to do something special to gain XP. You actually stop gaining XP from getting kills, and you have to again start doing something special. So I'll speed this up and get us to level 130, and then I'll start talking to you guys after that. So I will see you here in a little bit. Alright. So, I'm at 128 right now, almost 129. If you followed along, if not, I understand. But all I did to get to where I'm at right now, of course, John F. Doe is way, way far ahead of me, so we're able to kill a lot higher level individuals than what I could if I was doing this by myself. But the point is what I'm building. I'm about to hit 130, and you're like I was saying before we started the fast motion stuff. In order to whenever you hit 130, things are going to change a little bit as far as how fast and what you can do for XP and how you get it. As far as items for what I've been building, I went ahead and got the Shield of Courage, which took one of the tranquilities that you saw me purchase. The force. Let's see. I was talking about the Hydra. No, I was talking about Shield of Courage. Yeah, I took one of the tranquilities that I built and an 8 Medallion of Courage. That is an absolutely wonderful item, especially if you're by yourself, because it gives you an extra 4,000 attack and 500 defense just for having the item. And the fortified force, if you saw, is having a lot of trouble at the Harpy before I got that item. After I got that item, though, it made it very, very simple for me to hang in there even with her spells. The fortified force is what gives you your magic resist, so that 20% magic resist is just extremely, extremely necessary in order to do the Harpy at lower levels. Same thing with the majority of bosses after you hit the level 130 mark. But anyway, what I wanted to get at is now that I am level 130, I no longer gain XP from killing things. The only way that I can get XP is by stepping through the circle at the end of these boss zones. The only one that starts to give XP is the level 130, the pirate ship zone. The level 128 does not. So, if you're like me and the very first time that I tried to hit level 160, which is tier 2, I had to run through that level 128 zone since I was doing it completely solo. I had to run through that zone maybe 50 or 60 times just to get to where I could kill the pirate ship by myself. So if that's what boat you're in, so to speak, then don't be discouraged whenever you're sitting there running through that zone, just farming for money, for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Luckily for me, I've got a character that will run me through that higher zone. But that's it for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and save off right now. Just a helpful hint on your saves. It actually saves the items that are in your bag. So if you have a recipe that you couldn't quite finish, if you have an item that you're not wearing and you don't want to get rid of it, you want to stay in for an extra hour and farm for that item, don't worry about it. You can save the items that are in your bag. Most RPGs actually don't have that save function for your bag, but this one actually does, so you can use that to your advantage. So if you want to buy a recipe and then you didn't end up, your session got cut off a little early, so you couldn't finish don't sell it. Sell value in the game is only 25%, so if you bought something that's worth 1,000, you're only going to get 250 back for it. It goes for wood and for gold on returns like that. So don't be discouraged if you have to cut your session off early and you haven't finished that last recipe. Just go ahead and save it, and I will talk about getting from level 130 up to level 160 in my next video. One last thing about this is the save does make a text document in your Warcraft 3 folder. So you don't have to worry about copying and pasting an image of um, of your code and then having to retype it in. It actually gives you the ability to save the file in a text document. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time.